Welcome to 𝐒𝐭𝐮 Expert Sessions. The presentation will begin shortly.
Hi, my name is Ranshali Sparks, founder and CEO of 𝐷 Creative. Today we will discuss brand identity from a graphic designer's perspective. But before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a Georgia girl born and raised. I have always had a passion for creative expression, especially the intersection between design and business. This has been evident throughout my academic studies and career, as I studied fashion design and product development and minored in business. I then went on to work in the event planning industry, where I coordinated social and corporate events and worked as a project manager for a prominent event design company right here in Atlanta. Ultimately, my passions led me to starting my own digital marketing agency, 𝐷 Creative. My company helps businesses take the guesswork out of developing a solid brand identity and presence via branding, digital marketing, graphic design, and web design. Some fun facts about myself. When I'm not working, you can catch me binge watching true crime and makeup videos on YouTube. Bailey Sarian and Brittany Vaughn are my absolute faves. And if I'm not doing that, I'm probably crafting or reading a really good book. So today we are going to cover what exactly is a brand identity and why is establishing a strong brand identity so important to a company's success. Then later, we will further dive into how you can develop your own brand identity. So let's get started. First, what is a brand identity? It is a combination of visual elements and messaging that lays the foundation for consumers' perception and interaction with the brand. Effective brand identity will not only set the company apart from its competitors, but it will also accurately convey company values, messaging, and product services. So, why is establishing a strong brand so important? It's because a brand identity is like the personality of a company. Therefore, it is directly tied to consumers' perception and how the company can position itself within the market. A company's brand identity is a way to build trust and customer loyalty by effectively communicating brand values that are in alignment with the values of its target market. This is a quintessential part of building a solid customer relationship, as it gives a company an advantage over the competition due to the emotional connection that their customers have with the brand. The quality of a company's brand identity can also have a direct impact on the company's revenue. For example, suppose a company has a weak or inconsistent brand identity. In that case, the brand is less likely to remain at the forefront of consumers' minds when making a purchasing decision. This will also significantly diminish the word-of-mouth portion of a company's revenue, as customers will unlikely recommend the brand to others around them. However, when a company has a strong and reliable brand identity, they are then able to charge a higher price premium. This also reduces the likelihood of extreme fluctuations in demand due to price changes. Also, companies that have strong brand identity can create a certain perception of quality, whether it's through a higher price tag or the strong emotional connection that it fosters between the brand and its customers. Not only does this create a sense of added value, but it also is a way for a company to differentiate itself from its competitors. Next, we have brand recognition. A strong and most importantly, consistent brand identity will allow for elements like a company's logo or brand colors to become highly recognizable by consumers. This is a key factor when trying to make a brand stand out from its competitors that are also offering similar alternatives to their product or service. Now, let's do a brief exercise. I am going to give you approximately 5 seconds to name all 3 brands on the next slide. But because the brand identities of these companies are so strong, it probably won't even take you that long. And please, feel free to shout out those answers aloud. Ready? Let's go. All right, time's up. Are those your final answers? Well, if you guessed Apple, Nike, and Starbucks, you'd be correct. Congratulations! Now let's take a deeper look at some of the reasons why these brands would be able to have you guess them right away, literally within seconds, solely based on their brand mark. Let's start with Apple. You see, Apple has successfully positioned themselves as a lifestyle brand. Consumers that purchase Apple products often consider themselves to be part of the creative class, a group that prides themselves on being smart, innovative, and creative. This concept is exemplified by the brand slogan, "Think Different." Additionally, Apple also fosters a level of exclusivity by being what is considered a conventional luxury. And when I say this, think of like blue text bubble versus green text bubble. Basically, Apple creates a sense that you are a part of an exclusive club when you purchase their products. Lastly, they are consistently modern, from their products to their marketing, to their branding, to even the way that their stores are set up. Everything about the customer's interaction feels very modern, which ties back into those values of feeling smart, innovative, and creative. Next, let's take a look at Nike. With Nike, they create a sense of belonging amongst their customers, while simultaneously inspire them to operate at their full potential. For example, their slogan, "Just Do It." It gives people the idea that their hopes and dreams are well within reach. They also use their star power, which is celebrity endorsements, to draw customers to their brand. For example, when a customer sees their favorite celeb wearing the latest Nike gear, they subconsciously or consciously decide that they want the same apparel. Not only would that mean that they are embodying their idol, but their success as well. They also have a high perception of brand equity. This means that they have a high value that is derived from consumers' perception of the brand alone rather than just the product itself, aka it has a high social value. Lastly, we have Starbucks. With Starbucks brand identity, they want their customers to perceive them as friendly and welcoming, like they're getting their next cup of coffee from a dear friend, not just a barista. They also want to ensure that there is consistency in the quality of the experience that their consumers receive. No matter what Starbucks you go to, no matter where in the world or country, there is a certain level of expectation when it comes to their coffee. Lastly, they are very people and community focused. They pride themselves on building supportive and sustainable communities, which in turn makes their customers feel like they're doing more than just buying a cup of coffee, they're actually doing good in the world. Now, it's time to get to the fun part. How do you develop a brand identity? Well, first, we need to take a look at the 6 elements of a brand's identity. First, there's messaging. This refers to your brand's mission, its value, its positioning, and its unique value proposition. Then there's tone. This describes the voice and manner in which you communicate your brand's persona and values to your consumers. Then, of course, we have a logo. This is a visual representation of your brand name and often has several variations, such as a word mark, an icon, and horizontal and vertical versions. Next, there's typography, which refers to the typefaces you will use for your logo and brand fonts. This font should be consistent throughout any of your marketing materials and branding. 4 major font types includes serif, sans serif, script font, and display or decorative font. And one of my favorites, color. A color palette consists of color swatches that you will incorporate into every aspect of your brand, from your logo to your marketing materials to your graphics to your imagery. And please note, it is essential to pay attention to the psychological implications that each color has and how it will affect how your brand is perceived. For example, yellow often represents optimism, orange, friendliness, red, excitement, purple, creative, blue, trustworthy, green, peaceful, and neutral like gray tones, balance. Then there's imagery. This refers to any images or graphics that you use to represent your brand. These elements should remain consistent and cohesive in every instance it is seen in your branding. Now, let's take a look at the 7 steps of developing a brand's identity. The first step is to figure out the why, the what, the how, and the who. And what I mean by this is you need to first ask yourself, why did I start this company? So that you can identify what your company's mission is. What are the values and beliefs that drives my company? How do I want to position my company and differentiate myself from the competition? How do I want to use my brand voice to communicate with my customers? And lastly, but most importantly, who is my target market and does my brand values align with theirs? Next, you will need to perform target market research, and this is where the real work begins. It is in this phase that you are going to put everything that you've identified in the previous step to the test. Here you will want to gather 2 types of data. Quantitative data, which includes stats on your target market, such as demographics and geographics. And then there's qualitative data, such as psychographics, which are the characteristics, behaviors, and patterns of your target market. From there, you will be able to build an ideal customer persona, which is what you will use as your guiding light as you continue to develop your brand identity. Everything you do needs to cater to this persona to have a solid and compelling brand identity. Now that you have gathered more information on your target market and have a defined ideal customer persona, it's time to target those emotions of your potential customers. In this phase, you begin to ask yourself, what will resonate most with my target market? What will invoke the most positive response? Then you will want to start listing keywords or phrases that will attract and persuade your target audience and effectively communicate your brand's messaging. Next, there is brainstorming. This subsequent phase is by far one of my favorites because this is where the magic happens as you begin to unleash your creativity. With your brand messaging and keywords, phrases in mind, start by figuring out what is your overall creative vision or theme, and then brainstorm design concepts. For this, I recommend using mood boards. That way you can organize your thoughts and potential brand assets. A mood board can include design inspirations that you have gathered from either online or in the world around you, imagery, color swatches, and typography, as well as textures and patterns. And remember, your mood board doesn't have to start off perfect. This is your chance to really experiment and express your creativity. As you move along through the design process, you will begin to refine and adjust your mood board as needed. Finally, it is time to start creating your brand guidelines. In these guidelines, you will incorporate the previously mentioned methods of tone, messaging, brand story, voice, your logos, typography, your color palette, as well as imagery. This can also include mock-ups of your website, marketing, and social collateral, as well as packaging should you be providing a product. And now that you've begun to have a more solidified version of what your brand will embody, you can begin to test its effectiveness. And this can be done through conducting surveys, interviews, focus groups, and customer observation. Lastly, you will want to take that feedback from the previous phase and begin to incorporate it to refine and further create a stronger brand identity. So let's do a quick recap. We have covered what a brand identity is, its impact on consumer and market perception, as well as brand recognition, the elements that make up a brand identity, and how you can develop your own brand identity. But now let's focus on a few tools and resources that you can use for this process. Here I have compiled a list based on the various categories that we've talked about of different either services or softwares that you can use to help you along this journey. But that is all for me today. Thank you so much for watching. And I really hope that you take the information that you learned today and just hit the ground running. Just go out into the world and create wonderful, beautiful magic. Thanks for watching.